500 years ago, no one knew if it could be done. Could a ship sail west around the entire world and somehow return home from the east? It seemed impossible, a voyage into the unknown that could swallow men whole. One man dared to try. With 5 small wooden ships and a crew of around 270 souls, he set out to sail completely around the globe, across oceans no European had ever crossed. He would face mutiny, starvation, and seas of unimaginable scale. He would change our understanding of the world forever and prove that it could be circled. But he himself would never see the journey's end. His name was Ferdinand Magellan, and this is the story of the greatest and most terrible voyage in the age of exploration. Ferdinand Magellan was born around 1480 into the minor nobility of Portugal, a small kingdom that had become the boldest seafaring nation on earth. Orphaned young, he was sent to serve as a page at the royal court, where he studied map-making, astronomy, and the secrets of navigation. It was a thrilling age. Portuguese captains were pushing ever further into the unknown, around Africa and toward the fabled riches of the East. Young Magellan listened to their tales of distant lands and unimaginable treasure and dreamed of joining them. The sea was calling him. As soon as he was old enough, he left the safety of the court behind and sailed away toward the edge of the known world, hungry for adventure, for glory, and for a place in history. For years, Magellan sailed and fought in the service of Portugal, voyaging all the way to India and the rich islands of the East Indies. He saw fierce sea battles and brutal sieges, and was wounded so badly that he walked with a limp for the rest of his life. He grew into a hardened, fearless, and deeply experienced sailor. Above all, he became obsessed with the Spice Islands, the distant Moluccas, the only source of the precious spices that were worth more than gold in Europe. And Magellan became convinced of a daring idea. There must be another way to reach them, not east around Africa, but west across the unknown ocean, by finding a hidden passage through the Americas. It was a bold and dangerous theory, and he was determined to prove it. Magellan brought his grand plan to the King of Portugal, begging for ships to find a western route to the Spice Islands. But the king refused him again and again, and treated him with cold contempt. Proud and bitterly insulted, Magellan made a fateful decision. If his own country would not back him, then he would offer his vision to Portugal's greatest rival. He renounced his nationality, crossed the border, and presented himself to the young King of Spain. To the Spanish, his proposal was irresistible. A western route to the spices would make Spain unimaginably rich and bypass the Portuguese entirely. The king agreed to fund the expedition. Magellan finally had his ships, but to his fellow Portuguese, he was now a traitor, and the Spanish captains under his command would never fully trust the foreigner leading them. On a late summer day in 1519, Ferdinand Magellan's fleet set sail from Spain. 5 weathered ships, carrying around 270 men of many nations. Their goal was almost beyond belief: to sail west into the vast unknown, find a passage through the New World, and reach the Spice Islands on the far side of the globe. No one had ever attempted such a thing. The charts soon ran out, the maps turned to blank emptiness, and beyond them lay only rumor, danger, and the immense uncharted ocean. As the coast of Europe faded behind them, the men sailed into a mystery from which most of them would never return. The greatest voyage in the history of exploration had begun. The fleet crossed the Atlantic and sailed down the coast of South America, searching desperately for a passage to the other side. But there was none. As the southern winter closed in with savage cold, Magellan was forced to halt and wait out the freezing months in a bleak and desolate bay. There, tensions exploded. The Spanish captains, resentful of their Portuguese commander and terrified of the endless journey, rose up in a violent mutiny. But Magellan was ruthless. With cunning and iron nerve, he crushed the rebellion, executing its leaders and marooning others on the barren shore. He had saved his command, but at a terrible cost in blood and fear. And still, the passage he so desperately needed had not been found. Many now believed it did not exist at all. Then at last, near the very tip of South America, Magellan found it. A narrow, twisting channel leading west into the unknown. It was a nightmare to navigate, a labyrinth of icy cliffs, hidden rocks, fierce winds, and treacherous currents that wound on for hundreds of miles. For more than a month, the ships crept through the freezing maze, never knowing if it would lead to open sea or to a dead end. One ship deserted and turned back for Spain, abandoning the expedition entirely. But Magellan refused to give up. And finally, the battered fleet emerged from the strait into a vast and open ocean. Magellan is said to have wept with joy at the sight. The deadly passage, which would forever bear his name, had been conquered at last. Before them stretched an ocean so calm that Magellan named it the Pacific, the peaceful sea. But that peace hid a deadly secret. The ocean was unimaginably vast, far larger than anyone had ever dreamed. For 3 months and 20 days, the ships sailed on across the endless water and saw no land at all. Their food rotted and ran out. The men were reduced to eating sawdust, leather, and the rats that infested the ships. Scurvy ravaged the crews, and one by one, the starving sailors began to die. It was a voyage of unimaginable suffering. Yet somehow Magellan drove them onward, refusing to turn back. At last, half dead and desperate, the survivors sighted land. They had crossed the greatest ocean on Earth and lived, but their commander's own end was now drawing near. The fleet reached the islands of the Philippines, where the starving men found food, water, and welcome at last. Magellan, ever bold, befriended a local king and worked to convert the islanders to Christianity. But his ambition led him into a fatal mistake. To prove the power of his new ally, Magellan led a small force into battle against a rival chieftain named Lapu-Lapu on the island of Mactan. He badly underestimated his enemy. Wading ashore with only a handful of men, he was overwhelmed by hundreds of warriors. There, in the shallow surf of a distant island, Ferdinand Magellan was struck down and killed. The man who had dared to sail around the world died less than halfway home, never to know whether his impossible dream would ever be fulfilled. Leaderless and devastated, the survivors pressed on. They finally reached the Spice Islands, filled their holds with precious cargo, and then faced the last terrible challenge, the long voyage home. Of the 5 ships that had set out, only one, the Victoria, would complete the journey. Under the command of Juan Sebastian Elcano, she limped westward across the Indian Ocean and around Africa, hunted by the Portuguese, her timbers rotting and her crew dying. In September 1522, 3 years after they had left, the Victoria staggered back into Spain. Of the roughly 270 men who had departed, just 18 gaunt survivors remained. But they had done the impossible. They had sailed all the way around the world and proved, beyond any doubt, that the Earth was one single connected globe. Magellan's vision had changed humanity's view of the world forever. Ferdinand Magellan, the man who dared to circle the world and change it forever.